living data as paper.
All right, Aaron.
Other questions?
Well, we've got 15 minutes.
Oh.
Does anybody, is there any questions? Absolutely. You can step up to the microphone.
Yeah, I've got like 3 items. Can you talk about called expert networks, which are kind of pricey, and hedge funds use them, all that stuff, and how their stuff maybe gets them more out to it?
So like a Bloomberg or
So like Gearson Lehman, like Gearson Lehman.
Yeah. And the other one would be, is this cause more of the secondary private markets to arise because they don't really want to give the information out? Like now we're looking at the IPOs for Facebook and this stuff, private and stuff, because they want to keep it private and stuff. They don't want all the reporting and stuff. So is it driving more that direction because of the openness? See, some of them don't want the openness.
Some don't want the openness, and I think that's one of the things XBRL drives is to create openness. Where these public companies, it's public information. How come the data standards don't support public information?
Okay, the other one would be international reporting, like China companies and stuff like that.
Okay, well let's start with, and I think maybe Eric can speak to this. So
I can talk about the expert networks.
You can talk about the expert networks, and I think that maybe describe what creates an expert network and what we aim to alleviate maybe from the standardization.
So, I mean, basically, for those people who aren't familiar with it, there's companies that have grown pretty quickly, and basically the idea is that they're an expert network. And one of the biggest ones is Gearson Lehman. They, had started this company, and basically the gist is that there's a lot of people out there, like the guy who works on the loading dock at the Best Buy warehouse, and I don't know, wherever the Best Buy warehouse is, who can say, oh, I saw 3 less trucks of iPods coming off the back of the truck this week, and so that means that iPod sales are going to be lower in this particular region or Best Buy stores, and that can impact Best Buy stock, and that can impact Apple. And so the guy who works at the loading dock at the Best Buy, distribution center, can then get paid. He basically is like using these companies are reaching out to these people and saying this guy has some insider information, for lack of a better. It's not being disclosed in any other way, and it's a real issue. It's an issue for you can't. There's no way that a company like Best Buy, and I'm just using this as an example because they have a lot of distribution centers. They can't require all of their employees on the loading docks to sign these non-disclosure agreements and then police it. It would just be like, I could just imagine that being an administrative nightmare. And so they have these sort of networks that have popped up. And so for a hedge fund who is invested either in Best Buy or Apple, the $10,000 they have to pay the loading dock guy is pocket change, quite frankly. Because if the stock moves a quarter of a tick, they've made that money back already. And so that's sort of what the issue is with that particular thing. Will XBRL solve it? I don't know that it would get down to that particular level. That, it's not going to get down the way companies are reporting their information. They're not going to say, oh, okay, in this distribution center, we got 3 truckloads of stuff from Apple this week, and last week it was only 1 truckload of stuff, and next week it might be 5 truckloads. They're not going to report on that kind of granular level, so I don't see XBRL solving that. So that's one question.
I think just from a different standpoint, because I automatically went straight to Bloomberg and thinking about analysts keying in information, but the one thing that it does solve, well, no longer do you have to key it in and prone to mistake. The company has to own the financials that they're reporting, and they have to prepare it and say these are correct. And so not for expert networks, but for data standard and approved. It's right here located in one location, but the companies have to put it there. It doesn't solve the things that you could know from a standard. It's what's mandated from the standard, the financials. It's only the financials and the notes of the financials that are reported in XBRL. So it's one step in the right direction, but expert networks, that's how people get ahead, and that will never be solved by XBRL, I don't believe.
No.
And then, I don't know.
The other thing that would be interesting too is a new kind of expert network where, based on how 10,000 different people interacted with a piece of data, that's exposed by XBRL, through its tagging, I'd like to know how the 10,000 people that saw that piece of data did something with it, right? Sort of flipping the equation of an expert network. What happened? Who else
Go ahead.
I have a question for both Dawn and Peter. There's actually two questions.
I'm sorry, can you get up to the microphone? 'Cause I know they're recording
Can you
this.
hear me clearly now?
They're recording it is the problem, I'm
Well,
sorry.
while he's getting up to the microphone, there was a question about international. In Korea, the Korean Stock Exchange wanted to provide new transparency to the market for people who didn't necessarily speak Korean. And if you look at KOSDAQ, the Korean Stock Exchange, I believe the quote is that they experienced a 30% uptick in investments from outside of Korea when they first moved to XBRL. You mentioned China. In October, the Ministry of Finance in China declared XBRL their new national standard, and the bankers and others are working there. There are XBRL mandates in China, in Singapore, in Japan, in Korea, in Spain, in Chile, in Israel, mandates around the world, and there are other places where their goal is compliance burden reduction. So more the people than purely making it easier for the regulator. An effort called Standard Business Reporting, which has taken off 350 million euro per year reduction in costs in the Netherlands, forecast $1 billion Australian dollar reduction for the XBRL effort in Australia. Similar efforts going on in Singapore, Taiwan, and other countries. So it is going huge overseas. April 1st, every corporation that reports to HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs in the UK, must use XBRL to do their tax returns. A special type of XBRL called inline XBRL. So around the world, XBRL is being embraced in a huge way.
So similarly, there are many standards that we use, ISO standards. XBRL leverages the international standards when possible. But thank you for that, Eric. Sorry, let me sit down.
I stand up again.
Thank you.
Question both for Dawn and Peter. It's really two parts. One is looking at the external application specs, URL, and the other is the internal. The companies will start using SBRL also to do internal analysis, like they can compare against their peer companies to see how certain financials are performing for them, and then for the peer companies see if they're right or wrong. I'd like you to comment on that. Okay? And then I would like to move over to the area of say on pay, where the XBRL filings will enable people, i.e. investors, to get information about companies much quicker. The argument that has been made in the past year since the big financial reform act by companies is that, gee, investors really can't plow through all these files, investors meaning institutional investors or individuals, so they can't plow through all those files. And so they argue, let's have as infrequent a review of pay as possible. And investors are saying, no, we want it every year. It sounds to me like the suggestion on the panel is that people can get information about these companies much quicker through an XBRL system. So I would like to talk about A, how companies might use it as an internal tool, and then how XBRL can work for all of us as external people to get the true dope, as it were, on the companies.
Absolutely. So let me start off with that starting point then, and thank you very much for that question. Again, the vision of XBRL was that a piece of business information, once it hits any computer, anywhere, never needs to be retyped. This is used within an organization and as it's shared outside. Financial information, sustainability information, operational information. To do that, XBRL wasn't just about what I sometimes call paving the cow path, taking an existing end report and making it easier to consume. You're taking a bad report and making it bad, but bad faster. It was about improving the internal processes and improving the internal sharing of information. We've got a conference coming up in May in Belgium, and the last time we met there, a representative of the SEC said some words very similar to this. And true value to companies of all sorts will be when those external facing reports are just a happy byproduct of an internal system that has been made more effective with XBRL. So we know about XBRL for financial statements with the SEC, we know about bank reports, call reports going to the FDIC, we know about tax reports going to HMRC, but there's a whole other realm of XBRL, something called XBRL's Global Ledger Framework, which was designed to help companies on the inside, to help them with all the disparate systems that they might have one central metadata hub format, that they could take the information, convert it to this one format, and be able to very much